this meeting to order, and we'll start with roll call, please.
Oh, we don't need to. We don't have anybody.
Oh,
Well, I do need to do roll call.
We're not
for this,
zooming
yes.
anybody back.
Michelle Griffin.
Do we do the pledge first? Oh, I'm here. Yeah.
DJ Dondelinger.
Here.
Randy Heidman.
Here.
Sarah Spear.
here.
John Ward. Stephanie Ederman.
Thanks, Kelly. All right, now we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, this meeting of the Brainerd School Board is being conducted in accordance with Minnesota Statutes 13D.02. This meeting is being recorded. Access to the recording is available on the school district's YouTube channel. We will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So move. Okay, I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Motion passes. Due to this being a special school board meeting, there is not public input allowed during this meeting because it was called as a special and not as our planned meeting. Under new business for today, our topic is the approval of the first revision of the 24-25 budget. As presented, we've got Director Marcy Lord with us. Thanks for coming, Marcy.
Yes, I was going to say good evening, but we're not quite there, are we? All right. So in your guys' packet is the presentation itself, and then also a extended version of what's being presented, or a more detailed version, I guess, is a better way of saying that. So the presentation primarily focuses on the general fund. The document does have all the funds. The 23-24 revised budget was our starting point for the 24-25 preliminary budget. So you can see in the unassigned, and typically I focus on the unassigned, the excess was about $650,000. So that was our starting point. And then when we, last month, we talked about the 23-24 audited. So that's kind of still fresh in your minds. If the audit had been done further along, or there was more time span between that, I'd probably go into more detail on this, but you guys have been well versed within the last month on this. So for the 23-24 revised budget was about $652,000 excess in the unassigned. The 23-24 actual was $22.5 million excess in unassigned, and we went through all of that last month. And then also community service noted that the difference was about $342,000 deficit went to an actual of $285 in excess. So again, just repeat of last month, but typically we'd have a little more time span in between the audit and this presentation, so that's why it's on here. The 24-25 preliminary budget, we then update with the assumptions we know. So 2% on the formula, there was a decrease of approximately 111 adjusted pupil units, and then an increase in compensatory and SPED funding. And then we also had increase in labor agreements, benefits, and then contracted transportation and PSEO. So those are kind of where we got started with the preliminary budget. In that preliminary budget, we had estimated 5,789 in adjusted pupil units, and that's taking the first revised adjusted pupil units, factoring in the transition between grades, and then coming up with this projection. Again, in the preliminary budget, we were looking at about a $3 million deficit in the unassigned. And then I just want to note that beginning balance column is based on the 23-24 first revision, and you'll see that that gets updated. I know that can be confusing, but that beginning balance is based on the revision. And then when we look at their first revised budget for this year, it's gonna be the actuals because we know how the year closed. So 24-25, the first budget revenue and expense assumptions. So we then took how we closed the year ADM wise, what was our October 1 count for students, and then put it into our projection model. And we're gonna be down a projected 38 adjusted pupil units. We also looked at our salary and benefits, updated that with any known changes. It was about 2,500 lines that we had to touch for that. We have a number of accounts, and just gonna do a quick shout out to our new accountant, put in a lot of extra hours, and then also we did have Angie Bennett previously came back in and helped us out. So I just want to do a shout out there. That was super helpful. And then with the revision, we review almost 10,000 revenue and expense accounts. And I know that it seems crazy to have that many accounts, but with all the restrictions, that's why we have to have so many account codes. It's not by my choice. Just want to make that noted. And then also the services that were increased, we had to look at PSCO again. So our first semester bill came in and it was higher than what was projected, and so we did have to increase that budget as well. So with all of that, this is a screenshot of our projection model. So it takes the last 6 years, looking at our October 1 count, and then our final ADMs and coming up with a percentage. And so then we apply that percentage to our current year October 1 count to come up with our projection. It's pretty neat.
My dog.
A lot of tabs on that spreadsheet. So with the first revised budget, the restricted lines, there were 3 restricted lines added. Literacy aid, that was new, student support personnel aid, and then teacher compensation for the READ Act training. You can see under restricted, all 3 of those lines were added. And then, like I mentioned before, the beginning balances were updated with the audited actuals. And so we're looking at about a $2.8 million deficit in the unassigned.
What were those 3 new ones?
Literacy aid, student support personnel aid, and teacher compensation for READ Act training.
Thanks, Marcy.
Yeah.
What is student support personnel aid?
So that was, so for counselors, we could use it for counselors.
Oh.
In fact, we did use it, when we had CARES funding, we added a counselor at the Forest View. And so we just transitioned that position into this funding
Okay.
with the CARES funding going away. And then the literacy aid, you'll notice that there's no expenses on there. We're still, if you talk to Director Ross, we're looking at curriculum. What can we use for curriculum with that? And then the teacher compensation for READ Act training, that there was a MOU done for that, those expenses.
What's the deal with the LTFM?
As far as the deficit,
I thought we were gonna take the new deal.
that,
So why do we show $1 million loss?
So
We don't
that's-
have to.
that's next year, 25, 26.
So we were thinking that we were taking these numbers are so confusing. On the bottom, it shows 4.2.
Yes.
On the top, it shows 2.8. 2.8 is the actual?
2.8 is the one we focus on because unassigned is you can use for anything. The 4.2 encompasses all the restricted accounts.
Well, then what, are we gonna fix the restricted accounts?
So those are typically planned, like for LTFM, we still have in fund balance what our allocation is. So if the state came and said, we are no longer gonna fund LTFM, we'd have at least a year of time to plan for that. So that one is not a concern.
Okay, I'm not as concerned as much about that one as I am some of these other ones, like operating capital.
Yep, same thing.
Safe
Operating.
schools.
Yep, operating capital, we have more than what our allocation is from the state in fund balance, even with dipping into it. So same thing where it's not, I would be concerned if we're dipping into the fund balance and not having enough reserves.
Oh, this is kinda like the food thing.
So like unassigned, I mean, the reason why I point that out is because we are low, right? In some of these other restricted accounts, we are doing just fine. We could plan if funding was to be taken away. We would have time.
So do they mandate how much money you can carry over?
Not in these accounts, food service they do.
Gotcha.
So, any other questions on the restricted? It is, I mean, there's a number of categories. It's crazy how many categories this sheet, I was actually gonna joke that this sheet is not gonna fit on this page anymore. We keep adding to it. I'm gonna have to probably put it on 2 slides.
Well, it's not us adding to it, right?
Right,
It's the state?
yeah.
Yeah, they're doing us such favors. Constantly worried about the schools. Just a wonderful job.
But as far as your other, and the staff development line, like, that's another one that's deficit. So what happens is during the revision, we add all the carryover that sites have, but it doesn't mean they're gonna spend it. They just like to know what they have for a budget. So if I'm one of the sites and I have a carryover of 10,000, it gets added to the budget, but it doesn't mean they're gonna spend it. Maybe they will if they have some planned training, but it is a little bit deceiving when you see that number.
And that's indicated in the beginning balance.
Mhm.
So if you look at that, you can see what's being added or subtracted in the excess or deficit for that balance.
Any others on that one? Otherwise, I'll move on. So a comparison from the preliminary to the first revise, we are going from that 3 million in unassigned to about 2.8. And then you'll see that the percentage of total expenses go down just a little bit. And then our unassigned fund balance is higher compared to preliminary because of how we closed last year. So 12.4%.
We just have to remember that we didn't spend that money. It didn't get spent. It's kind of allocated, so it's not like we're keeping it. It's not like we get to hang on to it, right? It just didn't get spent before the cutoff on our budget, right?
When you say that,
Well, the 3 million that we found in the audit deal.
I was gonna say.
You told me it's because we didn't get enough of our LTFM projects done.
That was a separate line, so the amount that we put into fund balance is now incorporated into this,
Okay, but
which is still low. It's still a low fund balance.
3 million that magically showed up, right, was because we didn't spend it. We had planned on spending it, we had budgeted to spend it, right? And we didn't spend it?
So there was not 3 million in LTFM, that was in unassigned.
Well, whatever. Where did the 3 million come from, Marcy?
From coming in under expenses in
The
general.
audited thing you showed us a month ago. Sarah, you were there. What do you remember?
We made money on interest.
Yes,
Well, that's good.
That's where a lot of the money came from.
yes, that was where a
I
lot of
remember
it came
that,
from.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a good deal. I just thought that you told me that, well, the deal is we didn't get all the projects done, so it's like we had budgeted this much and we didn't really spend it after the audit got done.
And that was in LTFM, but it wasn't the 3 million. 2 separate things.
So are we gonna spend it? Apparently, we're gonna spend it right here. It's
Yeah.
going.
We're gonna try to get our projects done in LTFM.
The unassigned fund balance, Marcia, just to get into my pea brain here. That's kind of like a savings account, right?
Yes.
We can do whatever we want with that.
Yes,
Okay.
you got it.
But we do have a budget policy at the board level to have that at 10%.
Yeah, we chose, what does the state recommend?
You're jumping ahead of my presentation.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. 3 months.
Said that so
Yeah.
nicely. Be quiet.
No, it's 3 months or 25%. So
Whichever is greater.
so 3 months is 25%.
Oh, is
sorry.
25%, okay.
Yes.
It's like a quarter.
Okay, sure, of course, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
So there's my next slide. The state recommendation is 3 months. With the projected fund balance, we're about at a month and a half. And then the board policy is that 10% that Sarah had mentioned.
So I just want to reiterate that for you have 1.5 months reserve. So if something goes bad, you know, whatever it may be, that could be gone in a hurry. And a lot of school districts that struggle at staying at 10%, what they end up doing is borrowing money, usually to meet payroll. And that's a cycle that's really, really hard to get out of once you're in it. It's really difficult. So we don't want to go that direction.
Well, can you explain, Peter, and I think I might be, hopefully I'm saying this right. Is it true that Crosby is in what they call statutory operating
Operating
deficit?
If you're at 2.5% or lower, that's what that is.
Okay,
Is that correct, Marcy?
okay.
So then, technically, under state law, you cannot operate like that. So you have to come up with a solution to solve statutory operating debt. Usually that means cutting to raise your amount, but then you usually end up going to the public and say, would you give us more money? And I don't know how many districts throughout the state are in that stage right now, but it's going to change real quick, I have a feeling.
Okay.
So, pending your approval, the next steps will be if there was a second revision needed. So, if we had some substantial changes, for example, 500,000 from the state or something like that, we would do a second revision. If we don't see very material items that are affecting the budget, we will not do a second revision. And then the first revised budget will be our starting point for next year's preliminary budget. And we'll start looking at our assumptions, enrollment, the gen ed formula. Last meeting, we talked about the inflation factor on that. Projected sped change, federal funds, we'll have to remove all the CARES money out of that. And then any changes in the local levy and then employee contracts that we know of. And then that's when the work begins, right? Any questions?
Where's that little page, that little chart with all the ADMs and all that stuff on there? I got it,
You got it.
page 9. Oh, no, that's not the one I'm looking for. Where's the one that shows the future years, like 24, 25, 25, 26?
I think that's in the second.
There it is, on page 6.
Oh.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Are you looking at it?
Yeah.
So how do you go from, you know, let's just take 25, 26. 223 kindergartners, with 398 first graders. And then the next year, we had 223 kindergartners in 25, 26, but in 26, 27, we have 401 first graders. So where do they come from? Do some kids not go to kindergarten?
It can be kindergarten, or it's also based on birth rates. So if I
Right.
go into the details of this.
Well, I'm just wondering how, if there's only 223 kindergartners in 25, 26,
Oh, I see what you're
is there
saying.
gonna be 401 first graders in 26, 27?
Got it.
Because we almost doubled it.
Yep, no, I see what you're saying.
I mean, I'm sure you're right. I'm just curious, where do we find the extra 180 kids?
Good question. So it takes into account the transition when it does the formulas. So I don't know if typically we see that kind of, because it is consistently doing that into first grade.
Well, my daughter didn't go to kindergarten. So maybe that's a common thing. I didn't think it was. I thought my wife was crazy, but
I'm not aware of that, but I see what you're saying.
I mean, I hope
Oh.
it's right.
Sorry. So take handicap kindergarten and regular kindergarten, add them together.
Oh, that's what that is.
Yes. And they don't do that anymore. This is, I think this year.
What is handicap kindergarten?
It's just another category that we have.
It's
kindergarten.
Physically, everything, like, what does that mean?
I'm not sure how they get categorized into that category, but they're both kindergarten, everyday kindergarten.
Really?
Those would be students that are tested as they're coming in to kindergarten.
They're behind?
They're assessed. Well, yeah, they could be, you know, there could be intellectual, or it could be physical, or social emotional.
Wow, it's a high percentage.
Yeah, like I said, that no longer, I think starting this year, that's no longer a category. So we'll have one column, and it will be less confusing.
Well, at least it makes more sense now. It's like, I kinda get it now.
Yes. You had me stumped there for a second.
Not for long. Well, I can make a motion.
All right, we've got a motion to approve the first revision of the 24-25 budget. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions? If not, all those in favor, respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marcy. We do have an additional thing on the agenda here to approve the computer lease agreement, and it looks like you're on the hook for that as well.
Yes, I am. Okay, so we have linked in a document, and it is a lease agreement for 725 devices. We need to update our devices, and Ryan is online if there's any questions on that side of it that I can't answer. But the lease is for a 4-year lease for $224,423 a year. When I threw it into, I'm looking at DJ because I feel like he's going to ask this. When I threw it into the lease calculator, it's about 4.5%. So we did receive quotes from 2 other vendors. This company was the lowest for our payments. And we were going to be purchasing them through CDWG, which is a Sourcewell contract. So are there any other details that you guys need to know? So we did send this over to legal, and there is a rush on this as far as we need to get these devices ordered. They are on US land, I believe, right now, and we received feedback from our attorney that there are some suggestions they would like us to have changed, but they're not deal breakers according to the attorney. So,
They're worried about the tariffs?
yes. You got it. So my ask,
They gotta get paid to worry about something.
yeah, my ask would be that you guys make a motion to approve it pending legal review and authorize administration to execute it. But there may be some tweaks on this. We haven't heard back from Providence on what they would or would not accept on those suggested changes.
Like, what's an example of a change?
Sure. So, for example, instead of upon notice and coordination with lessee at all reasonable times during business hours, just to strike that. So they're little things that
Right.
lessen our liability, but they're not deal breakers, is what we were told.
These are Chromebooks, right?
Yep, or Acers. Sorry,
But Acer Chrome.
They're for the staff. These are not for kids.
yeah. They're for
These are
staff.
staff computers. These are for the teachers, the office people, principals, Peter, Kelly, Marcy,
How many of them were ordered?
700.
725.
And did we check on buying them?
So this lease payment comes out of capital, the one that is negative. So if we bought them, we'd really be in the hole then. So that's why we lease.
Just because we're just figuring out what buckets the money comes out of? I mean, it's a 3-year lease and there's $1 buyout at the end.
Oh, okay.
So it's not it's just like buying them.
And how much is this gonna cost us?
It was,
800 grand.
yeah, 890.
Over
8,000.
how
Over
many
4 years,
Is it 4-year or 3-year?
4-year.
So about 200 grand a year.
And our current lease payment actually is around 300 something. So this is a better deal than what we have right now.
So we're currently leasing,
Yep, and that'll be done here at the end of this year.
okay.
And all those devices will be returned, and then this would get us our new devices.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask the same question I always ask. Why is Sourcewell involved?
So if we didn't use the Sourcewell contract with CDW, we would have to go out for bid,
So what?
which is more time, and this is,
Don't you think that somebody's making some money on this still?
well,
I don't know. I mean, I'd love to hire out somebody to bid all my stuff out too, but we just can't really afford that because there's someone that's got to make dough on the deal.
Well, one of the things though about these regional units is that they do have more buying power because of the volume of purchases they're gonna make, just like paper. You know, you can go out and do your own paper bid, but in the end, you're gonna pay more no matter what, because we don't have enough volume to drive the price down. So whether it's Sourcewell here or Southeast Region in Rochester or wherever, they can contract purchasing just because of the volume that drives the price down.
Well, that's fine, and I agree with that.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem with it, but I'd like to see some outside stuff, and I don't ever get to. Every single time, it's the same thing. We contracted with Sourcewell. Sourcewell told us what the best deal is. I didn't hire Sourcewell, right? You did, okay? My job isn't for Sourcewell. My job is the school district. And I feel an obligation that somebody should be looking outside. The same thing with the paper, Peter. You know what? How do we know? Because Sourcewell told us they get the best deal? We don't know. The amount of money you guys spend on printers is enough to make you throw up, right? As I saw it. So we must go through a lot of paper, right? It's $18,000 a month in toner. I mean, it's ridiculous. So, I mean, I'm thinking that maybe we should look it around a little bit. I just like to see it. If I saw it 5 times in a row, I might believe it. But right now, at this point, there's a lot of doubt in the world, and people are asking me, and I never see anywhere where we went out and got our own deal. Where's Marco? Where's so-and-so? There's other people that do this kind of work. And I think that, you know, today, fine, let's go. But the bottom line is that I brought it up before. Doesn't seem, nobody really cares what I think. But I'm gonna start to be a problem about it if we don't start to see some outside bids on our own. If you need help with it, I'll come volunteer my time. I've done lots of this work.
So the devices themselves is going through the Sourcewell contract, but the 3 quotes that we got for the lease, one of them was a Sourcewell contract, and we are not going that route.
I don't know what that means, but my point is that leasing.
That means we're doing our homework like you
Sourcewell would
want.
be the bank then?
So
So we'd
yep.
lease them from Sourcewell.
So
We didn't
the-
take the Sourcewell deal.
Yes, so one of the companies was NCL Government Capital, and that is a Sourcewell contract, and they were not the least. So we went with the Providence, which is not a Sourcewell contract.
That's fine, but I'd like to see us get some outside looks. It's no
Because
different than in my business. I wouldn't let them go out buy from the same vendor. I don't care what that vendor says. I don't trust everybody.
Yep.
No, I agree. And like Marcy said, the financing is a different contract than the actual purchase. And
Yep.
so both of those things are bid separately. And I know there are several awarded contracts that do Acer books, and CDWG just happens to be one of those vendors. But they, like, we might have had 15 or 25 businesses respond, or manufacturers respond to that. And probably there were 3 or 4 that were awarded, CDWG being one of them because of the value, because of their pricing, because of the quality of service and the actual offering that they had. So that's, there are other options within the Sourcewell contract, and they picked CDWG.
Yeah, I'm fine with CDWG and I'm fine with the Acer computers. I don't care. But I'm not happy with this. It's too much work for us to figure it out.
I have to
Yes.
be careful how I say this, but I know a graduate of Brainerd High School that can offer us contracts as well. So,
Whatever, it's fine. So we gonna make a motion to approve it? Somebody needs to.
I'll make a
Get
motion
outta
to
here
approve
today.
the computer lease agreement.
yeah, I mean,
I'll second it.
Okay.
yeah, I mean,
We don't have time to do it now.
well, it sounds like we're saving money too, based upon the old one.
Yes.
All right, we've got a motion by Director Brecken and a second by Director Dondelinger. Any further discussion? If not, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, the same? All right, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marcy.
Thanks, Mars.
That's it for our agenda. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. I'm assuming no discussion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
All of those opposed, fine. Motion carries, and we are